biggest field of presidential candidates in Democratic Party history is getting even bigger. Former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg filing paperwork this past Friday, and a former governor you may know who's reportedly considering a late-stage run.
Good evening, Democrats. Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Well, I hope so.
Like Bloomberg, Deval Patrick previously said no to a 2020 run, but according to the New York Times, he's been reconsidering thanks to concerns about the strength of the current candidates and the high stakes of this election. Stakes perhaps even higher than those he laid out ahead of the 2012 Democratic National Convention when he was stumping for his longtime friend, President Barack Obama.
This is the election of a lifetime because more than any one candidate or policy, what's at stake is the American dream. Whether that dream endures for another generation depends on you and me. But it also depends on who leads us.
If Patrick decides he wants to be that leader, he's running out of time. The deadline to file for New Hampshire's First in the Nation primary is Friday. I'm joined now by his former campaign manager and deputy chief of staff, Sydney Asbury. She is now principal of DNM Solutions. Good to see you, Sydney. Paige Scott Reed was the Department of Transportation's general counsel in the Patrick administration. She's now president of the Massachusetts Black Lawyers Association. Good to meet you. And Glen Johnson, who covered Patrick as a statehouse reporter for the Associated Press before joining Secretary of State John Kerry's communications team, the subject of his recent book, Window Seat on the World. So we did a little research today. No candidate has entered this late in a presidential campaign and won his or her party's nomination since 1980. So starting with you, Sid, is this real or is something else going on?
It seems like it's real from all indications and all reporting that I've read. I think
you weren't part of any of this decision making.
No,
were you? Okay,
I was not. I was not. I have the privilege of being having a personal relationship with Deval Patrick these days, so I'm one of the lucky ones.
So why do you think it's real?
I think it's real because many of the news reports have credible sources saying that it's real, and I think this is something he seriously considered. I think he feels that he has something to offer. He is a progressive that is not pushing revolution, but sort of unity. And unfortunately, I wish it was a year ago that he was deciding to make this move.
Well, that's a good question. If it is real, do you agree that it's real?
I do, and I was really interested that you used the word unity because I really think that's the key word here. People are talking about whether or not there's enough excitement among the field of candidates. I don't think that's the issue. I think that there's excitement in the current race. But I think Patrick has the ability to unify folks in a way that we haven't seen yet.
He didn't know that until 4 days before the New Hampshire primary filing deadline?
You know, I think he's wanted to run. I don't know him personally very well, so I don't take that as though I have an inside track. But I think that having the need for him is an important factor in getting him into the race. I think otherwise he wouldn't be running.
Why after a firm no? Of course, Barack Obama was a firm no to Tim Russert once as well. Why after a firm no is he a yes in your estimation, Glenn? You covered him pretty closely.
I think the stakes of this election are so high that even somebody like him, who may face some structural impediments to running, if he feels like he has something he can offer to the field, he's thinking about it. People are seeing this impeachment inquiry further divide the country. They're seeing Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren having issues for a variety of reasons, and none of the other candidates has really caught fire. Save for Kamala Harris's early moment where she challenged Joe Biden, there hasn't been some sort of really catch fire moment in the campaign.
Is almost Obama-esque in terms of surging in
and he's also the mayor of a small, 200,000 person city. If you're Deval Patrick and you're sitting on the sidelines and you have an oratorical skill that's pretty unmatched in the field, and you ran a state for 2 terms, you feel like you have something to offer.
Could it also be the urging of this guy? This guy, Deval Patrick used to ask the governor with us every month, kind enough to come into the radio, Boston Public Radio. On his final show in 2014, this guy, a former Somerville resident, called in. Here it is.
Governor, this is Barack Obama, formerly of Somerville. I've been...
Come on.
I've got a few...
Who is this impersonator? You're very good.
Deval, you done good, man.
Thank you.
You know, I was standing 2 feet away from him. He didn't, first of all, he didn't believe it was Barack Obama at the beginning. My irresponsible speculation, as I called it before, is Barack Obama has not endorsed Joe Biden. And Joe Biden has come up with this absurd argument. I asked him not to endorse me. I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. Is it possible that his friend, with whom he clearly has had a close relationship, said, I'm worried about the ability of any of these Democrats to win this race, so please do it. You've done good, Deval. Do you buy that, or is that...
Maybe. Listen, I think every 4 years we see the political class and the donors crying that they don't have a strong enough field, and I couldn't disagree more. I think
By the way, you know which donors are saying that now? Some Wall Street donors are very nervous about Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and they're amongst those who are saying, Deval, run Deval.
I think that is true, and I think he has been urged by former Obama folks as well as sort of political insiders and donors who are concerned with the current field.
The dynamic, though, with Wall Street, again, this is anecdotal, just a report today, a few Wall Street people, well, it's not anecdotal, a lot of Wall Street people are really upset with Elizabeth Warren, also from Massachusetts. Do you appreciate the weird dynamic that Wall Street are amongst those allegedly urging Deval Patrick to run when the other home state candidate is essentially running against Wall Street? I mean, it's quite a dynamic, no?
And I don't think it would make a difference, though. I mean, I don't think Patrick would be motivated by a bunch of Wall Street folks saying, get in the race and run. I think you have to take very seriously how much he cares about the country, how much it's about, can I do something good for the country and bring us together? I think he's got a real backbone, and he'd say no if he didn't think he had something to add.
Well, again, there's another piece of this. I was not even aware until I read the New York Times, I'm embarrassed to say, that he was an analyst for CBS News, because he's pretty much disappeared with a couple of exceptions, at least, I don't mean from his work at Bain and doing the socially responsible investment stuff, but from political commentary. Here's an interesting comment he made recently about a guy who, at least in some polls, is still a front runner. Here's Deval Patrick.
I'm a fan of the vice president. I've known him a long time. I have always felt that his support was soft, and it feels like his campaign is contracting rather than expanding.
That's not a typical Deval Patrick. You don't get many critical comments about friends and allies, at least in my experience with him, an arm's length experience like yours. Was that a signal that we should have been reading at the time, or am I making too much out of that too?
Maybe, possibly. I think, again, I think he wouldn't be doing this unless he thought he had something to offer in this field.
What are his greatest assets? What does he have to offer? Give me the two or three things you think are the most important assets.
He is an amazing leader and campaigner, and he has a unique ability to bring people together. And at a time when our country is everything is so divisive, our politics are so divisive, he's a unifier. He's very different than Elizabeth Warren. He is not, and Bernie Sanders and some of the other folks in the field, he isn't going to be arguing for a revolution. He's going to be arguing that we need to come together for a higher cause.
You know, most of the people I've spoken to in the last 24 hours who feel like Sydney does about this have said much of the same positive things. But there's also some management nightmares here, whether he's responsible enough. Department of Children and Families, there was a problem. The drug labs, there was a problem. There were some personal issues with family members too. And it seems to me, again, from arm's length, one of the reasons was pretty clear to me when Deval Patrick said, I'm not running, the whole thing is cruel, I believe was his word, that family was a big part of his decision, and you're nodding in agreement not to. What happened?
Now you're going to have Howie Carr from the Boston Herald do a direct download to the White House and to President Trump that's going to get played in New Hampshire very heavily. Every problem that Deval Patrick had over 2 terms in office is going to get recited again.
However, but Deval Patrick knows that. Deval Patrick's a really smart guy.
And that's why I think he is one of these people that's now accepted that's baked into his calculation, and I think he figures he can overcome that with some of his policy and also rhetorical.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Paige.
I also think that he's going to bring to the race a track record that none of the other candidates have, in the sense of being a true progressive. Going hard for things that are causes that people say we can't do that, it's too expensive, but we need to do, and bringing along more of a coalition to do that. I think that's going to be his track record that matters.
The best part of this to me is someone who, watched things like Mario Cuomo. I'm going to run, I'm not going to run, go on for years. We all agree, I assume, if he doesn't file in New Hampshire by Friday as the next state over governor, he's not running, correct?
Well, he's doing a speech tomorrow out in Colorado. He's going to have a huge media contingent
Boy,
there,
really
I'm sure. And then the deadline is Friday, and so if he starts saying, I can run, but I don't need to do states like Bloomberg is saying, it becomes an even greater challenge.
Speaking of Bloomberg, I mean, he's, if I may, he was in Arkansas today. He's filing in Arkansas. He filed in Alabama March 3rd. So he's skipping South Carolina, Nevada, Iowa, New Hampshire. I assume if you got $50 billion, maybe you can do that. But Deval Patrick can't do that, right? He's got to be in for New Hampshire and South Carolina if he's to play the game.
Listen, he's already missed deadlines in 3 states, Iowa, Arkansas, and Alabama. So Deval Patrick is in a position where he has to have a showing in New Hampshire, which is 3 months away, and then has to turn to Super Tuesday, which is 100, maybe a little over 100 days away, and have a showing there. And
well, South Carolina, you left out a huge black Democratic
absolutely.
primary population.
But to go from 0 to 100, there are huge challenges. But he is the type of candidate that could catch on fire.
Okay, we only have 30 seconds left. Let's do Nostradamus. Is he doing it?
I'm sorry?
Is he running Nostradamus time? You're making
Yes.
a prediction. Is he
Yes,
going to run?
he's running.
Yes?
Yes.
Is he going to run?
I think yes.
And you?
Based on the meeting I heard about yesterday, it sounds like he is.
It's going to be an exciting time here in Massachusetts. We have Bill Weld. I think he's running too, from what I hear. A lot of players. Good to see you, Glenn. Thanks so
See you,
much.
Jim. Yep.
Paige, good to meet you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Sydney, as always.
Great to see you.
Thanks so much for your time.